gonna be like, don't.
I'm so glad I did the movie. I'm so fucking happy I'm not shooting it right now.
Hey, why is there joy on this
Fucking
set?
joy, guys. Come on.
Come on, dial it back.
That mood's shitty.
Who needs to get yelled at?
Wherever again.
Ready. Background. And action.
It's a trailer movie.
I was sent an article by Guy Lawson at Rolling Stone. I just thought, wow, this really could make a great movie.
I heard about this story actually from my dad. My dad said Todd's company had just got the rights to this Rolling Stone article.
I always sort of love how Todd Phillips' brain works. I was very interested to see how he was going to take the article and realize it cinematically.
Basically, every time I'd see Todd out for about the past 3 or 4 years, I would say I needed to be, involved with it.
Early on in the writing process, we realized that the best way into this movie was probably through the eyes of the David character. And that's because Jonah is so out there.
Yeah, motherfucker! I mean, I don't know how you want me to work with him all day.
I know.
If we're gonna deal with this same shit again.
Here we go, let's see what happens.
Todd does such a great job of finding that perfect cast. This movie really comes down to David's character and Ephraim's character and that chemistry.
Todd offered me the script and I read it and it was genuinely just too good to pass up. I just was like, I'm gonna be really pissed if I go to the theater and saw that someone else plays this part really well. So I was just like, all right, let's do it.
Me and Jonah kind of went back and forth, like, how are we going to sort of portray this guy?
Spray tan, all the Miami, Gucci, loud, early 2000s clothes, awesome.
This is Ephraim, that's why he's not invited to this dinner.
And action.
Henry has a dinner in 10 minutes, but I wanted you to hear this firsthand.
Bradley kept saying, but I don't know the end of this character. Where's he from and what's his deal? And I go, we don't want to know where he's from. But I remember I did send him a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer, who has those great glasses. And I said, those are the glasses he's gonna wear. And he goes, okay, I get it.
Wow. If I fall over, guys.
He's really almost uncomfortable to watch, but you're like, I want to know what that guy's deal is so bad.
I'm not a bad man, but I do have to ask myself, what would a bad man do?
Don't let his poor eyesight fool you.
Background action.
And action.
Todd doesn't like to shoot on sound stages. We went to a different country every time we were supposed to be in a different country. It was not easy. We were in crazy conditions, and you can see it when you watch the movie, which is amazing. All that counts.
What is that?
I feel like that's like a starter riot.
Yeah. I feel like we're in the scene from Homeland here.
A director has so many tools with which to paint. Environment, for me, has always been a really big tool. I just feel like it informs everybody. It informs the production designer, it informs the actors. I like to be on the ground where it happened.
Get on this side of him, and then pick him up from here, so you're over here.
It's been the most travel I've ever done for a movie. We started in Romania.
Being in Romania is crazy. We shot in this real factory, and it's literally just gray.
Let's go.
This used to be called the King's Hangar. It was actually the King of Romania's personal hangar for his private planes back in the day. You couldn't find this anywhere else in the world.
It's the sound of gypsies and barking dogs.
The chance to shoot a movie in all these places, and you can really go and travel, and the energy and the attitude change.
Good, and cut. We're gonna do a rehearsal up here. It's just a full rehearsal with everybody. It'll get boring probably, but the key is every time to look like you're having fun at a club. Unless you're playing a bored person, that's okay too.
Today we're in Miami Beach. The movie takes place in Miami, and we barely shot Miami. It's crazy.
It's so different than every place else in America. It's hard to duplicate this.
It's fun and flashy, and it has this great kind of shady feeling to it with this sheen of beauty and excess, but it's really masking a hustler kind of attitude.
That, to me, is part of the fun of what I meant by like environment filmmaking. It really does cause a little bit of a frenzy and it finds its way into the movie.
After Miami, we leave for Morocco. Set. Morocco is doubling as Jordan.
Background.
We went to Las Vegas. I feel like it's in Todd's contract. Every movie he has to like make an appearance in Vegas.
Any luck today?
I really wanted to have a big scope of guys who are international arms dealers.
Like this sort of thing, which is more about Marlboro.
Mine's not about Marlboro, mine's about Jonah.
No, I know.
Looking into his mirror. For
For
the sequence that takes place in Iraq, we really didn't know where we were going to film it. Our location manager, Ken Lavitt, came to me with some pictures of El Centro. And El Centro is maybe a 2-hour plane ride from Los Angeles.
Action, action, action.
It's very hard to research what the green zone looks like inside. So that's been a great education on the authenticity of what it is when you enter the gates. We have a money room and a nice military office and the entry gates as you drive in.
El Centro, a beautiful place to go. Not in May, because it's really hot. I got a vest on, it's hot, I got no sunglasses, it's sunny, I'm the fucking weasel, man.
It's brutal. It really feels like you're in Iraq because it's 95 degrees and craziness.
It was hot.
Shit, damn guns, man. I know.
We were sweating in the sun, so this fucking spray tan that I had on the whole movie was crazy, and then sometimes like sweated off. The spray tan became like this misbehaved child that I had to just constantly take care of the whole movie.
It's chaos here, fuck!
Cut.
Part of what makes Todd such a great filmmaker is his commitment to going all in.
When we see those Hummers coming, we're going to move into the middle of the lane.
We had the insurgents gaining on our heroes, and we had the Humvees coming right towards them with a Huey helicopter over the top. So getting everything right was a bit of a challenge.
We'll meet as you come around, and this helicopter will come his own path around. Let's see what happens. That was some good timing, you jerk.
A lot of times it's better to be lucky than good, and we got a bit lucky, and I like to think we were also good.
God bless Dick Cheney's America!
This is one movie where we really took that to another level.
Ready, and action!
The thing that I've always admired is he really is somebody that is constantly striving to grow. And he is, without question, an auteur filmmaker.
Who kicks him like that?
Yeah, let's try that.
This film has greatness. I think we'll look back that I was in Todd's best film. There's a sort of epic filmmaking, storytelling sense.
You drove it through the triangle of death. Fucking A right we did.
Run, motherfucker, jump in!
I think and hope it's presented in a palatable, sometimes funny, sometimes fucked up way that people could really connect with the story.
Holy shit, the triangle of death, bro? That's right. Yeah, that's the AUI guarantee, bitch.
I wanted to make a few $1 million and then get out of the arms business and work on my music. No, that's not what happened.
A company in Miami, Florida was awarded $300 million in taxpayer contracts to provide weapons to the Afghan fighters in Afghanistan.
And action!
My friend Brian sent me an advance on a Rolling Stone article that he thought I'd be interested in. The more we dug into it, the more it became evident that there could be a real movie built around this.
I heard some young kids had won a $300 million contract to supply all the ammunition to the Afghan National Army. It just seemed such a strange set of facts. The idea that two kids could fool the Pentagon, could fool the United States Army for years on end and perpetrate this massive fraud, it didn't strike me as entirely plausible. So I approached the lawyer of one of the defendants in that case, a guy named David Packhouse, and we hit it off. And so that's how this story really began.
The Rolling Stone article, I was told, was like their most widely read article they've ever published. So I wasn't surprised that it could be a movie.
Early on in the writing process, we realized that the best way into this movie was probably through the eyes of David. David really represented the everyman.
I was actually going to college at the time. I was studying chemistry, and I was supporting myself by doing massage.
David is a smart guy trying to find his place in the world, and in comes Diveroli.
We've known each other since we were teenagers. We both went to the same synagogue, and we both didn't like to pray, so we would hang out outside.
These were young guys who did not graduate from college. One of them didn't graduate from high school. They did not have great prospects.
Ephraim came back to Miami, I think, when I was 22 or 23. He's like, I want you to, work with me. I'm making a lot of money. I need a partner. He was 18 years old at the time, and I asked him, well, how much money have you made? He looks at me and he's like, I'm only telling you this to inspire you. I got 1.8 million in the bank. So I was like, whoa, let's get going.
Ephraim was just this driven figure, and David, he got bit by the money bug. He wanted in on that too.
It's a time in America where, because of a certain legislation, people basically had the ability to become arms dealers with the U.S. military.
What happened was there was a little bit of a backlash, if you remember, against the Halliburtons and Raytheons of the world because they were getting all these single bid contracts. And there was those connections with Dick Cheney, who used to be the CEO of Halliburton. And so to counter that, George Bush started this initiative.
The government decided that every business needs to have a fair opportunity at all government contracts, including contracts within war. And so they started literally just this website.
It's called FedBizOps, Federal Business Opportunities, and anything that the military needs to buy, it's listed on this site in basically a silent auction.
And that opened a door, a small door, for guys like Ephraim and David to kind of enter into the arms business.
It's kind of the American dream, You work your ass off and you make it big.
They started getting these little contracts, working their way up through the system.
It was like being in a craps game for the kids, right? You just keep rolling and rolling and rolling, and it didn't cost anything to play. And eventually they got really, really good at it.
I wouldn't lie. It was pretty cool. We'd go to parties and people ask us what we did, and they'd be like, yeah, I'm a stockbroker, I do real estate. And they're like, what do you do? Like, we're international arms dealers. And they'd be like, you're kidding, right?
They got rich very young. They spent a lot of money buying apartments and cars. They truly lived in the same building.
You had these two smart guys feeding off each other and creating a momentum.
They kind of stumbled upon this humongous contract that really was over their heads, and they figured, hey, fuck it, let's take a shot at this.
Now you have two kids smoking weed, probably working off a laptop in their apartment. How are they able to generate the proposal that you have to be able to put together? How did they come up with a DCAA-compliant accounting system? I mean, it staggers the mind to understand how this could happen.
They looked at our books, which we did have to build from scratch. Very few people in the industry get to those levels, and the fact that we won a contract to supply the entire Afghan army for the next 30 years was really crazy.
Now I want the general in charge of the Army Sustainment Command to come to the Congress and explain, how do you give $300 million in contracts to what had been a shell company now run by a 22-year-old and a 25-year-old massage therapist?
When you start aiming at $300 million contracts, then you're actually messing with the big boys. Once they got it, they realized they couldn't deliver on the prices they promised, and they couldn't even necessarily acquire all the munitions that they had promised. They did mess up. I mean, that would be the best way to say it.
Now, here's a sample of what showed up from that $300 million. They sent ammunition to the Afghan fighters that turns out in some cases to have been mid-1960s ammunition made in China.
We had an arms embargo against China, so we couldn't use any ammunition that was made in China at the time. These bullets turned out to be made in China, and our guys just said, well, what if we just take them out of the boxes and repackage them? No one will know. Action! They might have even gotten away with it, but it was a big mistake.
And the truth of the matter is they were kids. For all their intelligence and all their skill and wiliness and ability to dissemble, they were still just kids.
The U.S. military is definitely not somebody that you ever want to cross in any way, shape, or form.
This is the building in Florida where the office of this company was that got $300 million. Now, the office, just an office inside this building. No markings on the door. This 22-year-old president says he's the only employee at this point, but they got $300 million.
The fact that two stoners from Miami Beach working out of their apartment could procure such large contracts, it's all going to come back to the government. The government was the people writing the checks. The government people that was accepting this ammo.
It was a political act, and when the music stopped, they were the ones holding the bag.
I knew we were in legal trouble. I mean, I knew that the government was working on a case against us. When my mugshot was plastered on the front page of the New York Times, that was horrible.
Really, the problem is in the way the government was doling out these contracts.
You had the Pentagon essentially giving itself permission to break the law. Then you had the Pentagon's own law enforcement agency chasing the breakers of the law.
The government comes to you and they say, okay, so we're going to charge you with 71 counts of conspiracy to commit major fraud against the United States government. The federal government wins over 98% of their cases. What can you do? You just batten down the hatches and hope the storm passes and lawyer up and hope you don't go to prison for the rest of your life. And, you know, it's, I'm glad I didn't.
Really, the film is an indictment on the US government. If you're kind of watching it with a certain lens, you realize, oh, the government is so fucked up that this can happen with really no system of real true checks and balances.
We ought to be embarrassed to not have the kind of oversight that we should.
You're working with the government and doing something illegal at the same time.
These guys, you know, exposed some of these loopholes.
They were doing things and revealing things that were profoundly important, not just crazy and stupid, but also of vital interest to how the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were being conducted. It was really kind of amazing to me.
Meeting David was cool. I'm playing a real person.
I can't speak for the real David Packouz, but when I met him, you know, he still seemed hurt in a way by all this.
I was talking about Ephraim and I was saying, so do you guys still keep in touch or whatever? He's like, no. He's like, but he's gonna hear from me. And I was like, why? He's like, well, he owes me a couple $1 million.
It's always very difficult to say, well, what would have happened if you had done that? You know, now I get to do something that I really love, which is, you know, think up of cool gadgets, you know, from musicians. So I designed the Beat Buddy. It's a guitar pedal drum machine. In 2013, it became the most successful crowdfunding campaign for any musician's product in history. So I'm pretty happy where I am right now. But I would have kept another copy of the contract. That would have helped. Probably wouldn't have written a lot of the emails I wrote that were very incriminating. That would have helped too. I guess friendship does have a price. The price is a few $1 million.
Pentagon pie. I gotta get me some of that Pentagon pie. I'm hungry. Oh, then you gotta get yourself some crumbs. Some crumbs? No, I said I was hungry. I know. The Pentagon has a new way to get the best crumbs in the world. Look, the big dogs have always got their slices of that sweet Pentagon pie. And if you weren't in the Big Dog Club, you weren't getting any pie. Look at that pie, that lovely Pentagon pie. Sweet golden honey made with taxpayers' money. It looks tasty and that's an undeniable fact, but I doubt they'd give us one, we're just a couple of rats. Sure, the big dogs still get the big pieces, but ever since the Pentagon was caught giving out no-bid slices to their big dog friends, they have had to level the playing field for little rats like us. So now, every Pentagon purchase, every gun, every bullet, every grenade gets offered up for bidding to big and small businesses. Say hello to Fed Biz Ops. Fed Biz Ops stands for Federal Business Opportunities. They buy tanks on here? Bro, they buy everything on here. Just wait flip side is why we'll get our Pentagon pie. Although we're civilians, even crumbs are worth millions. We'll get nice and fat like those canine bureaucrats. It doesn't matter that we're just a couple of rats. Pentagon pie, I gotta get me some of that Pentagon pie. Now thanks to logging on to FedBiz Ops, the money train never stops, and we can finally kiss our former lives goodbye. Let's eat this pie, this giant Pentagon pie. But if they don't go to war, then they won't make any more. War always comes round, but we don't need more than spats. Cause if there's boots on the ground, these pies keep coming out fast. And we'll be the fattest, fullest, roundest couple of rats. Pentagon pie, Pentagon pie. We'll be the fattest, fullest, roundest couple of